How's it going, people? Today is Wednesday, October 5th, 2022. And I'm going to talk, I guess it's a touchy subject for some people, but not touchy for me at all. And I'm going to get right to the point. Since I've had this YouTube channel, and even on my Instagram, Facebook, probably as far back as I could think, someone's always talking negative about police officers, or the police, NYPD, and how they do certain things and whatnot. And I'm sorry, me, Robert Dyer, I do not share the same value like that at all. I don't feel that way at all. I think it's absurd to even think that way. Like, I couldn't even imagine being a police officer. How hard that job must be. Now especially. But pretty much throughout my whole life. I mean, even as I've explained in my past videos, for some people that might be clicking on here that don't know who I am or what I've done in my life, I pretty much was a criminal up until I got married, about 1994, 95, and then I just continued on with graffiti until my arrest in 2017. And before my arrest, like I said, 1994, I was hanging out, robbing, stealing, so much different things. Like I've explained, I'd go into basements of delicatessens, steal big wheels of cheese and sell it to other delicatessens, to black garbage bags that are used for garbage bags, to 50-ply skits of them. Just everything, at motorcycles, cars, car radios, wheels off of cars, fucking just clothing, just so much stuff. Like, yeah. That's what I did. And I wrote a lot of graffiti. But in my encounters with police officers, first also let me tell you something. My father is technically would be considered a police officer. I mean, he was a correction officer out in Yaphank prison. I mean, he's dead now, but yeah, he was actually a correction officer. In terms, that is a police officer. Like when inmates or convicts or whatever are discussing it, they're pretty much talking about the law in a situation where a correction officer is considered a cop. So first, that's the first thing. My father was always pretty much in the field of law enforcement. And I could also say that other encounters with police, I'll get into that later. First, I just wanted to ask this one question, honestly, because I see all the ACAB and cops are bastards, all cops are bastards, and fuck them, and this and that. And, like, seriously, just take 1 minute out of your life. Like, all joking aside, I know I come on here and I'm funny as fuck, and all this and that. But seriously, just, like, hear this out. You go to college, because you need a college degree, right? Then you apply to be a police officer. I've actually taken the test once upon in my life. I ended up going down the road of the Department of Health, and I got a phlebotomy license to draw blood and stuff, but if not, I very well could have become a cop. But honestly, think of it this way. You go to someone, like, it's like a superhero, yeah? Like, you go to college, study law, pretty much, where's John Jay College or whatever, get enough degrees, bachelor's, associate, I don't know what's accepted by them, but then you go into the police academy. Just imagine right now, like, you're in the police academy, learning to become a police officer, to hit the streets of New York City to become a police officer. Like, that is such fucking dedication when you can do so many different things to make so much more money. That's really like a school teacher type level of love for the job, I guess, because public school teachers don't get paid much at all. Neither do cops their first couple of years in. And it's just, you go through all that, and then you're assigned a precinct. Now, whether it's a bad neighborhood, or it's a good neighborhood, or whatever the situation may be, you're still a police officer. You wake up every day, and you go to work, and it's just, like, people are hating you just for wearing that uniform. Like, imagine, I would not be able to do it, man. I've always looked at life that way. I'm sorry. And so have my friends. So have all of the people I've hung out with. Never ever disrespectful to cops. I do know a few of my friends that might have gotten drunk and acted stupid and maybe gotten a little extra trouble because they were acting stupid to the police. throughout my life. Yes, that's happened. I also remember some kids that are older than me and that were pretty much hardened criminals, like jailbirds, that yes, they would go at it with a cop just to escape and get away because they don't want to go to prison for 10, 20 years. So yes, there was situations like that, and fleeing or something like that, I myself will go for it. If I have the opportunity to run, I'll run. If I can swoop under them or whatever, and any physical contact is technically considered assault. So I don't know, like in that area it gets a little gray when you're actually trying to flee. But as far as it goes with actually like setting out and just talking shit about a police officer or hating on a police, I think the people that do that are the ones that suck at being criminals. Like honestly, they don't know, and they didn't play fair. Like, yo, it's their job to get you, and they don't have to lie. And like once you understand that and then like accept it, it's really not the cop's fault. Like honestly, I'm sorry, but we've always felt that way. I could tell you, I'm gonna actually tell you 3 situations. Hell, 4 of them I can even tell. I remember this one. I'll shoot real quick. This is back in 1987, 1990. No, 1987, 1988 maybe? No, 86 into 87. I was up at the 6 train writing graffiti on the park trains, Middletown Road, Zariga, Castle Hill, this, that. And I swear, like, I'd go into the park trains and I'd write graffiti. And that's like Pelham Bay, and that's like where the Pelham Bay graffiti squad was. And yeah, so I'd say if I went there 10 times, out of those 10 times, 7 times, I'd get chased. And I remember every so often, there would be a cop that would actually jump down on the elevated tracks where it's just little beams of wood that are like 1.5 feet away from each other and just start coming after me. I remember this one specific time. Dude was chasing the fuck out of me. I'm like, oh shit, like he hopped down on the track, went across the active tracks to the park train tracks and just started burning towards me. I'm like, oh shit, this dude got game. Like he didn't even put his arms up and do this shit. He just went whoo, 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 and just came at me. Like whereas most people are like, whoa, you know, but he was whoo, whoo, whoo. And I could tell like this dude is fucking hauling ass at me. I'm like, wow, this is some shit. So I started running, and yeah, it went on for quite a while. Like it was like a stop, and then like I swerved over, I went to the other side, started heading up, and a whole mess of shit. But when I got home and I was in my bed, I was like, whew. You know, my little dog sleeping next to me and shit. I'm like 15, 16 years old. I'm like, whoa, that's a fucking cop, yo. Like, yo, I was impressed. Honestly, I was not pissed or anything. Maybe if he had actually caught me, it would have sucked. But yeah, no, like I always looked at it like, wow, woo, almost like that was a game, man. You know, like I don't know, I don't play sports, but like a football game, and like it's like you almost lose it, but you win. Like yeah, like it was really like wow, you know. I respect that, but like. It's not his fault. I mean, just, I'm sorry. Yeah, I understand. I'm a white man, this, that, sitting there talking this shit. And the areas that are of complaint have really got nothing to do with me, but that's exactly it. The areas of complaint got nothing to do with me to the point where you shouldn't be commenting on my comments about police officers being assholes. Because I'm sorry, no, I don't think that way. I've always respected them, always. You have to. So have all my, I mean, maybe when I was younger, 13, 14, 12, you know, fuck you, man, you know, and run away or something, you know, but no, yeah, I don't know. I believe people that feel that way towards police officers, unless they were actually unjustly handled by cops in any sense, I really don't think they have an argument like that. Unless you just suck at what you were doing and you just were not a good criminal. Like maybe you should have like not been a criminal. Yeah, that's my personal opinion. And like, yo, just like my son is in the other room there. He's sleeping. He's got to get up in a couple of minutes to go to work. I don't know how I would react if my son became a police officer. Like I would worry so much about him Like, just like really put yourself in that position. Like, imagine being a parent of a child that, like, someone that's like 24, 25 years old, 27 years old. They go to college, they go through the academy, they hit the streets, they're in South Bronx or some shit like that, you know? I'd worry every fucking day, man, till my son got home. And even if he's married and living with his wife and has children and don't even live with me, that would break my heart, man. I would get old so quick. Just him going to work. I mean, all the dangers and the shit that's involved, and like all the mental illnesses and the domestic violence and the thievery and the murders, man, the murders and Jesus Christ, just the violations on women and so much stuff, man. I really wouldn't sleep when my son, if he was ever, I mean, he's not a cop, he has no idea. I mean, I don't know, he's never talked to me about it. Don't go saying my son's becoming a cop. I am not saying that. I am using that as an example. Like, just imagine being a wife of a police officer, or vice versa. Your wife is a police officer, and you're like, bye, honey, be safe out there. Like, God, like, wow, man. Like, no, that's like the real fucking heroes, man. Like, not some, like, idiot like me that's like running around writing fucking graffiti and like stealing fucking hubcaps or some shit. Like, be real, people. Like, imagine that shit, man. That's like fucking Vietnam, man. Like, yo, you're there, man. Like, no, that's crazy. And then there's like all these rules where like you can't hit them. Like, I was watching this one thing with a 16-year-old and they're like, oh shit, he's beating the shit out that cop. But the cop can't just punch you in the face. This is a token booth situation. The guy's hopping the subway or something like that. I don't know. But the cop is not allowed to physically hit you anywhere other than like right here. So it's like, what are you doing? Punching the guy in the shoulder while the dude's trying to fucking take your head off? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's really crazy. And it's like then every move is monitored and every single assault or touch. Even if, like, say I'm trying to run and you just grab my coat, that's a whole other fucking ballgame. Like, it goes under investigation. Like, yo, I'm not lying, man. It's like, yo, wow, man. Nah, them poor guys, man, they have it the worst, man. And I always felt that way, man, throughout my life. Like I said, I remember Halloweens and shit like that when I'm like 13, 14 years old. Someone call the cops, someone throw eggs at the cops and shit like that. And, but it's like, yeah, I was a child. But, I mean, I'll tell you what changed my opinions. And a lot of people, well, the fact that I grew up and became older and recognized that I was just a spoiled little brat and running around acting like an asshole. But other than that, there was one time, and just about everyone I could think of that's from John Jay Park in the early days was there. And there was a prep school, like a very rich school where people paid tuition to go to this school. Very rich people on the Upper East Side would pay, and the Upper West Side. Like a school J.A. went to, something like that, like some kind of prep school, like very expensive to live, not public school. So, they would have the best jackets and the best book bags and the best shoes. So we used to rob their ass, for real. I remember I was like fucking 13, 14 years old, man. Everyone was there, like Chalks, I believe, was there. JJ was there, John, Josh, John Horgan, Slater, Michael Mavroy, so many of us were there. There was literally like 20 or 30 of us. And when the name of the school was Dwight School, like D-W-I-G-H-T, I believe it was, Dwight School. And the same school that Vanessa Hayden, oh yeah, like that same school, like the one that married one of the Trumps and stuff, and I've talked about it in the past, actually during my JA videos. Like, these are the ultra rich of the rich. So, we'd rob their ass. We'd all get over there and be like, yo, that coat right there, that looks like that'll fit me, and this, that. So we'll just run over, we'll take their jackets, we'll take their book bags, and this, that. We didn't give a fuck. We'd rob them. And we just kept robbing them and robbing them. Like I said, I was a child. I was 14 years old, 15 years old. I was not even in junior high school yet, I believe. Or I was probably at that point. I don't know. But my elementary school was literally the school right next to Dwight School, which was PS 183. I was in there from like 1st to 5th grade, right next door to Dwight School. But I believe this is when I was in Wagner, junior high school. And we ran down, we were robbing these people, I swear, like every day, like every fucking day we'd go there. So eventually it's like they got in touch with the police and like, yo, there's a bunch of kids coming over here robbing us. So it was like maybe the 5th or 6th day of us robbing these kids. Bunch of fucking cops pulled up. Like, they knew the shit was happening. As soon as school lets out, yeah, it was a whole big plot. We were young, we were stupid, we didn't see the signs or the signals that this shit ain't right. You know, that we're gonna get caught. Like, we weren't experienced criminals, we were children. So, anyway, the cops all, they pull up, man, we start going for us. I remember Sammy was there, D3 was there, Omar Rodriguez, Luis Neves. Those dudes were like Decepticons. That's a whole other gang from like print and tech and stuff like that, different schools. They had the Decepticons. These dudes later on, I believe the Bonet brothers were there. Anyway, yeah, later on they got into this Decepticon thing. The whole thing about it. I remember hearing about them and seeing them and knowing a bunch of them, but I didn't understand it. It's just another gang, I guess. The Decepticons. But anyway, yeah, we get chased, right? Now, I'm going down towards York Avenue because this school is on 67th Street between 1st and York Avenue. I'm like, fuck, I dodged past one cop. Boogie, I'm going down York Avenue. I turn uptown like a block and a half. I'm like, fuck, I gotta get to the highway. Because, yo, everywhere, there's just cop cars everywhere. Like, so I'm like, fuck, like, if you get on the highway, if they're not going the way of the direction of the traffic, they can't fuck with you. And you can see the direction of traffic if there's any cherries coming, any 5-0, any cops coming for you. So I always head for the highway. I run across, like, first off, I get into the New York hospital. I run into the revolving door, and this one cop is chasing me. He's on me, man. And I noticed he's like a black dude that looked like Apollo Creed from Rocky. And the mustache, the afro, everything. This is going back. So, yo, I run into the elevator. I run right past, like, no real security and all that shit back then. It was just kind of, you go in, you're visiting someone that's in the hospital. You go over there, you go to the information desk, and they bring you, tell you where to go, what room to go to, and visiting hours and shit like that. You just go up and visit the person. Now, if you happen to need medical attention, like you've been shot, or you're having a heart attack, an asthma attack, or fucking COVID or whatever. I'm just thinking back then there was no COVID, of course, but you would go right into the emergency like a triage unit. The people that are most injured get seen first. That's the way it works. So I would run in to one side on York Avenue. There's like a library there. And I went up the first flight of stairs and then ran through the whole floor going east. And then went down the stairs, popped open the door, and got on the highway. Yo, this cop was still chasing after me. I'm dead fucking serious. No other cop, no other human being, no doctors, no nothing stopped or tried to stop me in any way, shape, or form. I get on the highway. I run across the fucking highway. And I look and I see him near the highway and he's like trying to figure out like how he could, and I'm like, no. Like I'm looking at him catching my breath. I'm like, no, bigger and shit. He went for it. He went across the fucking highway. A few cars skidded out. I just started running up the FDR like where the jogger's path is. It's like a sidewalk along the East River where I've talked about it. We used to steal motorcycles and ride them up and down there. Now remember, this was 67th Street, right? So I run up and the hospital is like 69th, 70th, 71st Street, right? So now I'm running up to probably 74th, 75th. And then I cut back across the FDR Drive, the highway. You know, you hear noise and shit. And he's like, cuts across too, shortly after I got through. This police officer got through. So I'm like, yo. So I go up to York Avenue, and up on York Avenue, I bump into all the other people. I remember it was either Michael Mavroyes, Joey Mavroyes. One of them was running this way with a cop chasing after them. So like now I'm right back in the middle of this shit. Like fuck. I'm like yo. So I go down. We get to like 78, 79. John J. Parker's there, and we have what's known as the Doggy Park. So I run down the pavilion where you hear me talking about. It's where Michael Rappaport lived. I run down that block and I turn left uptown. I cut through there, another cop car pulls up. I'm like, fuck, I look back, I still see that same cop coming after me from way back on 67th Street. I'm dead fucking serious. He's like, toof, toof, toof. He don't look like he's tiring out or fucking nothing, man. Well, there's other new cops, fresh cops that just hopped out their cop car to chase after me, and now 4 of us are together. I believe at this point somehow Sammy and Carlos winded up next to me, and we're running. So we go into the catacombs, which are these buildings that connect on 78 to 79th Street. All the basements connect, and we used to play tag in there. So we know those basements real well. We could hide somewhere there. Yo, I run into the basements. Yo, what did I run through? I just jumped down the stairs instead of taking the staircase down into these basements. I just jumped right over the little fence, right down into the place. So I run. All of a sudden, I hear someone else like thump. Like I get into one of the doors and I hear thump, and I hear the door open. I'm like, yo, it's still the same fucking cop, yo. It's like 10 blocks later, like 10 blocks up and like 2 blocks over, man. I'm like, yo, this is fucked up. So yo, I run out into the courtyard and I run, and there's a fire escape with the ladder. That is like a fire escape to a 6-story building. They all look the same, these buildings. So I try to grab onto the ladder to pull myself up, to get up under the fire escape. So, yo, I got on the ladder, I pull myself up. All of a sudden, I feel someone grab my legs. Pulls me down like this. So I hit it, I land on the floor. It's that cop, the same as that cop. I said, it looked like Paulo and Creek. Right, so I hit the floor. I'm like, oh, what the fuck, man? He said, yo, he's like, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm all right, man. Come on, man. Let me go, man. I ain't got nothing to do with these people, man. I was doing nothing. He's like, yeah, right. You know, so I remember telling him, like, oh, come on. Like, yo, you're still going to get your paycheck. Like, things like that. You know, I'm a child and stuff. And the first thing he asked me is, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm all right, man. And I'm like, yo, why don't you let me go? And I remember him going like this to my head. You know how you do that to a child? Like to a little kid, like, hey, you scrappy little bugger, you know what I mean? He did that to me. On the top of my head, he went like that. He's like, you weren't getting away. I was like, yo. And then I looked at him like, I noticed, like, it's like, we're going back to like 1984, or something like that. Like, exercise and bodybuilding and all that wasn't the industry it is today. It's like they barely just started making fancy sneakers. Like before that, it was all like people running and like pro kids and shit like that. And anyway, bodybuilding really, I mean, of course, Arnold, I believe, and a Conan movie had probably already come out at that point. But as far as it goes with the exposure to actual bodybuilding and being big, it's like, wasn't a norm. Like you were really like a freak. Where nowadays you see people that are pretty muscular all the time. But at this stage in life, it was very early on. I remember looking at him, like, wow, this dude's big, man. He looked like Robbie Robinson. You know, the bodybuilder, yeah, the Prince of Darkness. So I asked him, I'm like, oh. And he's like, you weren't getting away. He's like, you didn't have a chance type attitude, right? So I looked at him, I said, wow, what do you lift weights? You a weightlifter? You know, and he says, yeah, and I'm a marathon runner too. I was like, shit. But yo, just him touching me on the top of my head like this and be like, kid, you ain't stand a chance. And he didn't do nothing bad to me. Like we sat there and talked. He had to wait in the van, and they were still catching my other friends. And I remember right on the catacomb steps on 79th Street when he rubbed the top of my head. It was like, kid, you ain't stand a chance, kid. You know, and I really was like a badass back then, man. I was like, yo, I was like the fastest. Like when it came to playing tag and manhunt and shit like that, or getting away, yo, I was a badass, man. And I was real limber and real athletic and able to climb, and you know, I was always on point. But yo, that dude chunked me down like a fucking lion chasing after an antelope, man, for real. And I remember going to the precinct, the 19th precinct. His name was Williams, Officer Williams. What was his name? 1983, 1984. If that information helps anyone possibly be able to Google the guy, he's probably dead now. But yeah, Officer Williams was his name. And all you people out there, I know a lot of guys know me from John Jay Park and shit. Yo, comment, man, if you were there that day. So anyway, you know, I'm in the precinct, and they call my mother, and I'm underage at that point, you know. And yes, there were some black kids that were hanging out with us too. Like I said, we were all hang out. And they got arrested too, and were handled pretty much the same way. Their parents were called. And I remember sitting there looking at this guy, and it's like, just like, wow, what a powerful human being, man. Like seriously, like I was in awe of this man. I was like, this is like a child, you know, my father and mother were divorced. I mean, I'm not going to sit here blaming nothing on mommy and daddy and, oh, life sucked and none of that shit. I had a beautiful life. My father would have been there if he could have been there. He was out in Long Island. Like I said, he was a correctional officer, worked a lot out. Every time he had visitation rights, he would come see me and my brother. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Every summer, he would keep us. Every summer. And go fishing, go shooting, all types of beautiful things. But he was still an absentee father because of a divorce where he wasn't actually in the household. So my exposure is just assholes that I see sitting on park benches, like literally 68th Street Park. The crew before us were like all junkies, like shooting up and shit like that and fighting and killing people. Like, not necessarily killing people, but overdosing and shit like that, yes. There were a few murders, like I've explained with Sergio and shit, but to say it was more than it was, I'd be lying. But there were several murders that had taken place under those guys and stuff like that. And it was just, that's what I was exposed to. And I was like, wow, that's cool. You know, you think like Janis Joplin, man, you know? And yeah, like hippies and like, yeah, like that whole lifestyle. It was really just like that. And then here I see this officer, like I said, a black dude, looked like fucking Apollo Creed from Rocky, or like Robbie Robinson. Yeah, the bodybuilder. Google Robbie Robinson. And I mean, of course he wasn't like a real like bodybuilder, but the exposure to people with more muscle than a normal human being would have was unusual back then. And yes, this man was more bitter than your average Joe. And he told me, yes, he lifts weights and he runs the marathon. But I remember him doing paperwork. This is before computers, and they actually take your finger and they do all this shit. And I remember just looking at this man in awe, like, wow, that's how I want to be when I get older. Like, nah, it was fucking amazing. Like, just the authority and the power that this man had, and the humbleness and the way I was treated. Like, it was beautiful. Like, I felt like he was like a male lion, like, and I was like a little cub. Like, maybe it's from, I mean, you guys can twist the shit around all you want and think it's some kind of homosexual tendencies or something like that. But I'm just saying, as a father figure or as a man that walks this earth upright and proud, that was it right there. That man right there. Yeah, true fucking story. And after that, I really had nothing but love and respect for police officers. Always said hello, this, that. I would do everything in my power to not be a dick. Yeah. And also, later on in life, many years, not many years, maybe 3 or 4 years passed by, and they get this police officer in John Jay Park. Now, his name was McLamara. Officer McLamara. Like 86, 87, 88. Anyway, when he retired, I actually did a mural for him illegally in John Jay Park. As a matter of fact, that same mural, it's a cop with red hair, and it says, "Peace out, Mackie," or something like that, 19th Precinct. I think I even wrote my full name there, Robert Dyer, in case you didn't know I did it. Something like that, I forget. But there is a picture of it. I had a picture of it. I could probably find it if I really want. But in that Expo book, they actually posted that picture of Officer McLamara. And that dude was mad cool, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, if we were doing shit, like I remember once, like John John had like a battery, like a car battery, and he was like hiding it in the bushes or some shit like that. It's like McLamara was like, "Yo, come on, what the fuck are you doing?" And I remember John John looking at me like, "Yo, you didn't see this guy creep up on me like that, man? Like, yo, come on, like, yo." And it was just some fluke shit, you know. But yeah, he was like, "Come on, man," and yeah, he arrested him, you know. But it's like, yeah, you're doing some dick ass shit. You stole someone's car battery, man. Like, he took the battery out the car, so this way the car would stay there and he could go back and take the whole car later or some crazy shit because it was too busy. But then again, how do you open up the hood of a car and not get in trouble, you know? Like, if it's that busy, if you have the opportunity to open, I don't remember how it happened, but I can only think if you had the opportunity to open the hood, take the battery out the car, you probably had the opportunity to get in the car, unless your only option was to break the... Yeah, I think this thing cut off. I don't know what part, but I heard it go bang, 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 because it must have been over a half hour. After a half hour, this thing cuts off. But yeah, I just want to finish up by saying, man, yeah, no, cops are heroes, man. Cops are heroes, man. Like, honestly, why don't you tell them that? Like, if you see them, be like, "Yo, thank you, man." Like, I really am serious. They don't get paid shit. Like, imagine the mindset of an actual police officer nowadays. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to the police academy. I'm gonna get out, and then I'm gonna work in these precincts. And like, they're not doing that shit to steal a couple of fucking dollars and to beat up a couple of black people, man. No, man, they honestly have set in their minds that I want to fix shit. I want to help, man. I'm dead serious. Like 99.9% of them, yeah. Don't get me wrong. You got a couple of bad apples, and I guess during the 80s, one bad apple would do something from the way I recognize it. I forgot one more story I'm going to tell you. Just remembered now. Like, say you got one bad apple, it's being a dick. The other cops become bad apples by turning a blind eye to it. Yes, I'll agree. I've seen that with my own eyes. But I forgot the most important story. I was almost shutting off. Actually, the camera shut off itself. But there was a time with me and Slater Blige. Slater, black dude. He was actually there with this stuff too. Slater, I remember, when we were being chased from Robin Dwight School. Slater was with us also. Very good friend of mine. I still get in touch with him. I'm going to ask him if he remembers this. He's on my Instagram, Slater Blige. But anyway, me and Slater hopped the subway. And when I say hopped the subway, I mean we snuck on the number 6 train subway by jumping over the turnstile. Now, when I jumped over the turnstile, Slater was right next to me. We didn't think much of it. We were just talking to each other. All of a sudden, he has a beam right in front of him. So I kind of got to move over to let him come. And someone said, yo, like freeze, like police, like you didn't pay your fare. Token clerk says pay your fare, this, that. We really didn't see the police there. They came out some door or some crazy shit. I don't remember. But this is like 1987, 1988. And so the cops come this way. So I go this way. I see a little thing, because at that station they have stairs right after the token booth. So I see like a little entrance. I see one other guy that's coming up the stairs that's obviously recognized as a cop. He said, you know, this, that, he's down with the whole thing, and they're going to try and arrest me. So I go this way, and I try to bird that way. I get down those stairs, I get around the bend, and boom, the cop gets me. I tried. Almost got away. Tried. And I believe one of the cops slipped down like 2 of the steps, and he kind of was bitching, like he scraped his shin or something like that, to the best of my knowledge. But yeah, when I got upstairs, they actually let Slater go, who's a black dude, and all these cops were white back then. And they actually told him he could go. They slapped the shit out of me, and they gave me a ticket. And I had no ID on me. So I actually had to go through the system, get fingerprinted down on 14th Street and Union Square. They fingerprinted me. I wound up getting like a desk appearance ticket and this and that. But yeah, they didn't just let me go. And they slapped the shit out of me. But they did not touch Slater. They let him go. You know why? Because he did not resist arrest. He didn't act like an asshole and like try and escape. Like, of course you're going to try and escape. You don't want to get arrested. But when you do try to escape, that is resisting arrest. Oh, shit, the cops are here. And I didn't even post this shit yet. Nah, that sounds out my window, always shit popping off. New York is wild, man. But you heard that, right, on the loudspeaker. They're pulling someone over. They said, pull over on the right. Yeah, right out my window. I should video it. I hear sirens off in the distance, too. But yeah, no, the bottom line is Slater stopped when they told him to, and he was cooperating with them, and they let him go. Like, okay, thank you very much. Now they're like, and you now, you motherfucker, you thought you was going to get away? I was like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah, they slapped me up a little bit, you know. I went to 14 Street. I wouldn't say I went through the system. I might have used that term before because I'm just shooting this story off the top of my head. I was a teenager. I'm just trying to think back how it all played out. But yeah, they brought me to the 14th Street Union Square train. Like, there's a train station with a little booth in it. They also have one on 59th Street, but they didn't bring me there. 59th Street on the Bloomingdale's, they have one with Uptown to Downtown connects. There's a little door there that can process people with a desk. I've been in that one too. But anyway, yeah, they let Slater go. They held me. I got a bench appearance ticket type thing where you got to go there and you're not supposed to pay the fare. And there was no mention of me hitting a cop or, you know, him, because he did get hurt. And technically he was trying to grab me and I was resisting arrest. So anything that happens to him after that, it falls on me. But there was no word of that at all. He got his shots off on me, slapped the shit out of me, called me an asshole, and that was that. Like, he settled it. Man against child. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. Like, I'd rather that. Like, sometimes once they hit you, you're like, oh, thank God. They're not going to put me through the system. Like, once they start jacking you up a little bit, you're like, whew. Because you know they're just going to let you go. Like, I don't know. I never had no problem with that. I would rather that myself. And that's going back to the 80s when there was no cameras and shit like that all over the streets. And yeah, that's a true story. Slater, they let him go. They didn't touch him at all. He's black, man. Yeah, black dude. They grabbed my ass up because I was being a dick. It's the bottom line. Like, yeah, of course I'm going to try and escape, but I got to accept the facts of what happens after I try to escape. When you make that split-second decision to escape and you get caught anyway, yeah, you tried, you went for it. Shit didn't work out the way you thought it would. Oh, well. But you can't hate the cops for that. You got me? Like, yeah, it's weird, man. It's like, yeah, I think I explained it the best I could there. I mean, yeah, cops are good people, man. And, like, if this hasn't convinced you otherwise, just, I don't know, don't put them comments on my thing. I mean, I'll never delete anything, but honestly, like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, if you're thinking I'm going to cheer that shit on, no. Me, all my friends, everyone, my brother was a little nasty towards cops, but, I mean, everyone that I grew up with, we understood, like, yo, you know, like, that's the stupidest thing to do. Like, that is like, you know what that is? That's a newbie move. That's like someone that don't know the streets and don't know crime. Is someone that'll fuck with, like, talk shit about a cop. That is someone that is not a street kid. Street kids don't do that shit. Like, they know better, man. I'm dead serious. Like, it's like, yeah, that is like a new jack move to act like an asshole to a cop. It's someone that has no idea what they're doing, and they probably shouldn't be a criminal anyway. Because, like, even with Graffiti, man, some of the funnest times is being chased by them cops. Like, oh, shit. Like, and like I said, like, some of these dudes, they'd risk themselves. They'd be running on the elevated platform, the elevated tracks where the train is parked in the middle. They'll run across the live tracks with the third rail. This space is like this. I was so skinny, if I miss one of them woods, I will fall right through that shit into the street and probably get ran over by a fucking car. Yeah, true. I fell off there while trying to hang drop. So I was actually preparing for the fall, and I got fucked up. So yeah, you're just running, and whoop! I ran and stepped on a piece of wood, and the other end of it's like a 2x4, and the other, no, a 2x8, and the other, you step here and it swings up like in the cartoons. It hits me in the head. I'm like, yeah, and then I can, like, yo, I swear, like right here, like yo, that shit happened to Lace too. His whole foot went through, right on this whole shit right here. I don't know, you can see my leg, you see my balls, but right here, it went, like his whole leg was just ripped and pouring fucking blood, man. Yeah, true fucking story, man. But yeah, these cops, they're heavier, they got a lot of gear on, they got bulletproof vests. Back then, what was it, like a 38 Special, I believe? That's probably before the 9mm was put into issue to the police. Belt, fucking heavier vests, boots, shoes. Yeah, what, 50 pounds maybe worth of fucking uniform, 20-something pounds worth of uniform. They're chasing around some teenager in a t-shirt. Yeah, like I'm like in a t-shirt, yo, like Free Willy, motherfucker. Yeah, for real, man. It don't seem like much of a chase, yo. You gotta respect them, man. I'm sorry, man. New York, man. Straight up, man. Yeah, I just wanted to let you people know that, man. Take care of yourselves, all right?